And a warm good evening to you all, guys. This is Mr. E from Conductive Music, bringing to you yet another episode of Steam Corner. We reached episode 17, but it's not Friday yet. So tonight we're talking about Momocuri. That's the project that we're going to be delivering next week. That's a Monday to Friday. It's half term, February 15 to 19. And guys, we are really running out of tickets. The 9 o'clock and the 11 o'clock are completely gone, I'm afraid. But we've opened up a 1:30 p.m. and a 3:30 p.m. slot for you guys. There's plenty of spaces to go around because there'll be 4 teachers on each session. Remember, no mic, no camera for those ones, but you can chat away and ask as many questions as you like. Momokuri brings together storytelling, music, and creative coding based on an ancient Japanese spooky tale. So tonight, as a special guest, is one of our teachers. Actually, all of us are here, but the stage is Laura's tonight as she talks us through her experience in storytelling, story listening, story making, and story teaching. So I hope you'll enjoy this evening, and let me introduce you our guests. So Laura and Yui, you are both live. Good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. Nice to see you again, guys. Today, Laura-chan will tell the nice old ancient Japan story. I can't wait to hear that.
Fabulous, fabulous. And Laura, how should we start? Well, with a warm good evening, first of all, of course.
Well, indeed, yes. A warm good evening to everybody, story lovers and story lovers to be out there. I am really honored to be here and to be part of this project. And just to get the chance to think about stories, where they come from, where they're going, and share my excitement with all of you.
Wonderful. So guys, we have a few surprises for you tonight. There's going to be a few videos, a few slideshows, a few snippets of stories. And once again, if you'd like to drop us a line and let us know if you have any questions, please feel free to comment on the chat. It will appear right on time on the stream. But if you're watching this afterwards, not to worry, please drop us a message. We are obviously available on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Instagram. So I think I said them all. Hopefully that will be there. In case you get interested and you want to grab a ticket, guys, the link is in the description. That way is momokuri.eventbrite.co.uk. Laura, the stage is yours. How are we starting tonight?
Well, I was hoping we might be able to look at some pictures or videos that would get us in the mood for story.
Okay.
What should we have first?
Well, I've got a cue to a video here. I'm not sure where it is. Let's take a look.
Oh, well, that is just one of the many libraries in my house. I and my partner who I live with are big book collectors and book readers. This is a room that we dedicated to stories that happen to be inside books. So we've got a shelf for comic books. We've got a shelf for books of musical scores. We've got a shelf for novels, long stories. We've got a shelf for poetry, a shelf for plays, a shelf for action adventure stories, a shelf for crime stories. The list goes on. So I just wanted to show you my library, just to show you one of the ways in which I completely adore stories. There's a whole long, big shelf of fairy tales and folk tales, which, as you probably know, are the stories that originally were told to people rather than written down.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. And are there many Japanese stories among those as well?
Oh my goodness, there are loads. In fact, half of my fairy tale shelf is full of books of originally transmitted by speaking, orally transmitted stories from ancient Japan, and later there are stories that end up making it into dance drama of a few hundred years ago in Japan, really colourful and beautiful drama. There are other kind of little stories about the yokai, which are kind of like the Japanese fairy folk, only better. They have all these. They all have all of these different powers. Some of them work for good. Some of them work for evil. Some of them just like to mess with people's lives. I could go on about Japanese stories on my shelf. Yeah,
that's pretty nice. Yui, what's your favorite story? Let's see if Laura's got one.
Oh, the favorite yokai story.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
any episode on Kitaro.
Absolutely. Kitaro is a boy who can communicate with all of the fairy folk of Japan. In fact, the strange thing about him is his father is a giant eyeball. There's a TV series and a comic book series all about him. I think it's just about to come back round again. So if you see anything about a boy called Gegege no Kitaro,
oh yes,
you will.
We know that one.
You should look it up, and you can read about it. You can watch the TV series. In fact, the TV series is so fun that even if it's in Japanese with no subtitles, you can still sort of understand what's going on.
I see. I've seen the black and white episodes of that. If I'm talking about the right thing, I hope I'm not making a fool of myself here. But it's the one that goes like ge, 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 no ge. Is that the guy?
Absolutely.
Is that the one? All right, right.
Absolutely. Everyone sings about ge, 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 no ge, 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 no Kitaro. The very famous comics writer called Shigeru Mizuki. If you haven't heard of him, go and look him up now because he's brilliant. He's written all kinds of comics, but his most famous are the ones about this boy, Gegege no Kitaro, and all of the yokai, little folk of Japan.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, Laura, so I see that you've got a very beautiful background behind you. So you've given us some nice pictures. Do you want to talk us through some of those, perhaps? Or would you like to tell a story first? What is the mood now?
Well, perhaps I'll talk you through some of my photos. If they're going along behind me, I can probably talk about them in general. I can't actually look behind me to see what they are, unfortunately.
We'll do our best. Okay.
But yeah, I went round my house this morning.
Yeah.
Looking for all of the places where I look for and find stories. You can see comic books going past. I took some pictures of a comic book series called Tintin, which was originally written in French but has been translated into probably loads and loads of languages now.
Yes.
There are some picture books in Japanese and in English there where the story is told not just by the words but by the pictures as well, and they sort of they have this wonderful dance with each other, the pictures and the words, and of course that gets carried over into comics like Tintin or like Gegege no Kitaro, where people are actually talking to each other, but the pictures aren't just pictures of the people talking. Other stuff's going on within the pictures which also tells the story. What else did I take pictures of? I took some pictures of.
Can we actually talk about the pictures that we have, because then our audience can actually see it.
So what have you got?
So you are in front of a big altar here with somebody else playing a electronic-y, wiry, LED instrument, and you dress in white. And can you tell us maybe what story you were telling that night?
Absolutely. I was telling the story of the Snow Queen. It's a very famous fairy tale written by a Danish writer called Hans Christian Andersen.
We know the guy, yes.
It's a very, very famous story about a boy who gets stolen away by a queen of the snow. And his best friend goes on a long, long voyage to find him. And she finds him, but things get a bit complicated after that. And I've always loved that story. It's my background. As you can probably see, there's me in white just behind me as well. And that was quite a long project where I performed the story in front of an audience. I wrote some of my own words that were inspired by the original fairy tale, and a musician, sound artist, Sam Enthoven, accompanied me and made the soundscapes that went with that story.
Fabulous. So I've got also another angle. Looks like quite high tech. There is what I think is a video guy with lots of laptops and going through. So I'm assuming that was a live stream performance. So perhaps is it possible to see it somewhere?
It is. At the moment, I think it's slightly dormant because the Bloomsbury Festival, who originally live streamed it, they made it available again the week before last, and it might be another week or two until they make it available again, but I will absolutely let you know.
So on their YouTube channel, you reckon?
On they've actually got a channel on Vimeo.
Okay. Vimeo channel. So guys, in case you're interested, I've just posted these notes on the comments below. So it is the Bloomsbury Festival, which is a London-based festival inside this church. Whereabouts is it, by the way? In Bloomsbury? Or is it somewhere else?
Is in central London.
Okay, fair enough.
It's if anybody knows where King's Cross station is, where you get the Eurostar to France. If you walk down 10 minutes south from there, you find yourself in this, feels almost like a small town in itself, but it's full of universities and artistic goings on, and that is where they have a festival. It's kind of a London community festival every autumn.
Awesome.
And I've been
Sounds
involved in
good.
it for the last couple of years.
Awesome. So let's take a look at the next pictures. What we've got. Oh wow, it looks like you are in front of a Greek column, which is very blue, and you're wearing something that looks like me when I make a tagliatelle, which is pretty awesome as well.
Oh wow, a Greek column. You know what? I'm going to have to come back to you on that one. You know what?
Okay, because you cannot see it
in the last couple of years, I've done so many performances in strange venues that I've almost lost count.
Well, then in this one, I think Yui can probably tell us a bit more. Yui, you're playing a very weird instrument next to two bottles that look like they are sake bottles, of course, with a very scary looking thing behind you. I think this is the British Library, isn't it?
Oh yes, this is the British Library, our performance about the story about the dojoji is the legend of burning bell, isn't it? I play the shamisen and sing the old song, and Laura-chan tell the story.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Do you want to tell a little bit of the story, perhaps? Is that possible? Where have we lost you? There you go.
I suppose it is. It's not the story I was planning to tell this evening, but I'll just give you a little, I guess, précis of it. It is the story of a young girl, a teenage girl called Kiyohime, who falls in love with a visitor who's a traveling monk who's passing through where she lives. She thinks that she's in love with him. She thinks that he's in love with her, but he goes away. And that makes her very angry. She follows him. And in the process, she turns into a demoness. And let's say that,
of course, as you do,
her lover comes to a sticky end. But that isn't the end of the story that we told. There's another part to it which has to do with making the spirits of people who have died unhappy, releasing those spirits so that they can get peace in the afterlife. That's actually what a lot of ancient Japanese stories are about.
Okie dokie. So be careful, guys. There's a lot of stories of demons and stuff. So let's see what's the next. All right, okay. You are now a red-haired kimono wearing with a very weird background. I have to say, there's a lot of stuff in this picture.
That was a Halloween party at a club that was especially for artists. And so all of these artists had come and they'd made cakes in the shape of body parts. And they hired me to come and tell them a really very horrible horror story, again from Japan, about an artist who gets so obsessed with his art that he commits a really very horrible crime, which I can't really tell you about, otherwise I'll spoil the story.
Okay, fair enough. Right. So I'm just cycling through. It looks like there's a few pictures on this. So it's a very nice setting. Where was this, by the way? Is it still in London or is it somewhere else?
In London, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, most of the pictures I've sent to you, I think maybe all the best photographers just live in London. I can say that because I live in London. I think
Okay,
London's
fair
the best place in the world, apart from Tokyo, maybe.
Okie dokie. So let's see. Okay, I think I've went through a few of these pictures with you in different lights. They're definitely very beautiful. I think we ran out of pictures, so I'm back. And we're back in. So what's your plan? What would you like to tell us tonight? What's happening next?
Well, I would like to tell you one of my favorite Japanese stories. It's very famous. You may have heard of it already, but I hope you won't mind hearing it again. It's called Urashima Taro. Can I tell it to you?
Indeed you can. You are fully zoomed in. The screen is yours. We're ready.
Wonderful. Well, long, long ago in ancient Japan, there was a coastline, white sandy beaches, and the sea stretching off into the horizon. On that coastline, there was a small fishing village. And in a small house on the edge of that fishing village, there lived a young man named Taro. Taro worked as a fisherman, not really because he needed to, but his parents thought it was a good idea for him to have a job and do something useful. So even though Taro preferred to stay at home, every day he went out of his house where he lived with his parents, down to the beach and off in his boat to catch a net full of fish. Every day he did this. And one day he was just pulling his boat back up onto the beach when he saw a commotion on the sand. A group of young boys and girls with sticks were hitting something. He didn't like when people hit things with sticks, so he went over to see what it was, and sure enough, they were hitting the most magnificent turtle that he had ever seen. A giant turtle come out of the ocean to rest on the sand. So even though he didn't really like conflict, he stood in front of that turtle, between the turtle and the boys and girls who were hitting it, and said, "This will not do. I'm going to make you a deal. You give me those sticks and I'll give you my catch of fish for the day." "Yes, please." The girls and the boys with the sticks, they dropped those sticks, they took the fish and they ran off, leaving Taro and the turtle alone with each other. Taro looked down at the turtle, and the turtle looked up into Taro's eyes, as if it knew exactly what he was thinking. And then it turned around and it slipped back into the ocean under the waves, and Taro watched it go until it slipped under the waves and over the horizon. And for the first time, Taro, who loved being at home, wondered what it was like out there. But as usual, he went home, had supper with his mother and his father, and went to bed. The next day, he went out in his boat as he did every day, fishing again. And he was just hauling in his net full of fish when he felt something bumping against the side of the boat. He looked down, and there was the turtle again. And the turtle looked him in the eye again. And this time, their eyes locked with each other. And Taro heard a voice in his mind. The turtle's voice, without moving its mouth, said, "I am grateful to you, young Taro. And to show my gratitude, I would like to take you on a journey far away from here, under the sea, to the palace of the 8 dragon kings. Will you come?" Taro, more than anything now, he wanted to go down somewhere where he'd never been before. And so he forgot about his boat. He forgot about his parents. He forgot about his village. He forgot everything, accept that journey that he was about to go on, and he dived into the water and he followed the turtle down, 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 1 fathom, 2 fathoms, 3 fathoms, 4 fathoms, 5, 6, 7, 8, further and further down until the weight of the water pressed on his back. He grabbed hold of the turtle, and all of a sudden, the weight lifted, and they were in another world. He looked up, and there was a huge gateway, sparkling white in the water. And behind the gateway, there was a tower, rising straight up with a huge round jewel, like a beacon of a lighthouse up above. And everywhere, to left and to right, ahead of him and behind him, there were jewel-encrusted buildings, palaces, tables, vehicles. And every so often, along like a heavenly submarine encrusted with pearls, a dragon would make its way past, slowly and majestically. What a place! He turned round to the turtle, and the turtle wasn't there anymore. The fins had gone, the shell had gone, the scaly head had transformed, and in front of him was no turtle. It was a beautiful young woman with curly black hair and rich brown skin, and she looked at him and said, "I am the princess of this place, and it is me who owe you my life. Come in, be my guest. Feast with us. We have a feast in your honor." "Yes, please." Taro followed the turtle, no, not the turtle, the princess, into the palace. And that night there was the greatest meal, food, drink, dancing, music, all made strange for being so far under the sea. There's no night and day under the sea, so they partied and feasted for as long as they could until they were tired and they went to sleep. And the next day, they woke up. The princess and Taro, they talked and they joked and they laughed. They got to know each other. And the day seemed to last forever. And in the night, more feasting, sleeping, and in the day again, talking, laughing, getting to know each other, maybe getting to love each other. And then another party. But the next morning, when Taro woke up, there was something niggling at him in his mind. And suddenly he remembered. He remembered everything about that world up above, which he'd almost completely forgotten. And the first thing he did was go straight to the princess and say, "I can't stay here. This is the most beautiful place I've ever been, but I have responsibilities. My mother and my father, they'll be worried about me. I must go." "Oh," said the princess. "If you go, it will be very difficult for you to return. Are you sure?" And there was a moment where Taro almost stayed. But, you know, when you just remember something that you just remembered you've forgotten, it always seems more important, doesn't it? So he said, "No, I must go. I must fulfill my responsibilities. I'm so sorry." "Well, you've made your decision," said the princess. And she reached behind her and she gave him a box. It was, as everything else in that world, encrusted with gems and with jewels and with all of the precious things. A jewel box. It was tied up with ribbon. She put it into his hands and said, "Take this as a gift from me, but never, ever open it." "Very well," said Taro. And suddenly, there he was, in his boat. Well, in a boat. It looked very old and very unkempt, nothing like the boat, his smart white painted boat that he'd gone out in. It was just floating in the shallows. He got out of the boat and he walked up the beach. He walked up the beach to the edge of the village. But there was no village there. There was a road, tarmacked, with vehicles whizzing past this way and that. Carefully, he walked a little bit further along the beach. And where the fishing huts used to be, now there was a building made out of brick and stone. Where am I? Perhaps I've come back to the wrong place, he said to himself, and he looked around for someone to ask. He found some people walking down the beach. Girls and boys he didn't recognize, but he said, "Please, tell me where I am. This is my fishing village. Can't I find my village?" And he told them the name of the village, and they said, "Are you mad? That village hasn't existed for 100 years. I don't know where you've come from or what's happened to your brain, but I think you should probably go back there for your own safety." Taro walked out onto the beach alone, and he sat down, wondering what had happened to him. It did seem that a lot of time had gone past, far more than the 3 days he thought he'd spent in that beautiful kingdom under the sea. Oh. He looked at the box, and the box made his heart ache, missing that princess. And he thought, well, there's nothing else I can do. I can't get back to that place without opening the box. If I open the box, perhaps I'll be able to go back, and then there'll be people I know and the people I love under there, under the sea. So he opened the box, he opened the ribbon, he lifted the lid, and poof, out came a little wisp of red smoke and the tiny feather from a long-legged crane bird. In that moment that the smoke touched his face, he felt all of the youth seeping out of him, all of the years piling on top of his back like the water piled on top of his back when he went under the sea. In the head of the box there was a mirror, and he looked, and there he was, a white-haired old man holding the feather of a bird. Inside that box was what the princess had tried to protect him from, his own end. But even though he was old, he was able to sit there until someone came along, and they asked him what was wrong, and he told them his story. And the person who he told someone else, and they told someone else, and they told someone else, down and down and down the years, until that story came to me and to you. As for Taro, that crane feather, he held it in his hand as his age weighed down on him more and more. And something magic happened. The crane feather turned into many, many crane feathers. He felt his arms becoming wings, and his body becoming the body of a bird. And it took flight. And as it flew over the sea, it saw a turtle that perhaps it recognized. And you know what? The crane and the turtle have been best friends in many, many Japanese stories ever since. And that is the end of the story, my version of Urashima Taro. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow, that's nice. Thank you very much for sharing. Wow, we're not expecting all of this stuff. My goodness, that was gripping.
It's a bit of a sad story, isn't it? But
it was cool.
But you know, fairy tales and folk tales, they can be sad, but
yes,
they actually mean they've got so much other meaning in them as well. And I can't promise that next week during Momokuri that we'll be able to go super, super deep into all of the meanings of some of our favorite stories, but we're going to do our best.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Yui, I see a fabulous picture painting that you created. Can you tell us more about that? You're all the way zoomed in, so we can see very well now.
Okay, yes. Whilst I'm listening to Laura's story, I made a drawing of the Urashima Taro. And you see that urashima is on the turtle, and they are going to the castle in the palace inside the sea. And there are a few fishes, sharks are following them.
And he's
Oh, yeah,
holding the
that
feather,
shark
isn't
looks
he?
quite dangerous.
Yes, because he's, fisherman.
Right. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So, guys, thank you very much indeed for sharing this content with us tonight. I'm sure it's very well appreciated. It's very different, so I'm really pleased that we have been able to share. Well, that you have been able to share this story with us. And
There's so much more to talk about, isn't there? I wish we had more
Yes.
time, and then we could go into what stories are made up of. We could break it down, and then hopefully get some more inspiration that way. But perhaps another day.
Absolutely. There will be more chances, not to worry. And of course, guys, if you want to know more about this, please join us on Momokuri next week. I'll give you the details in a minute. And Laura, have you got any final statements before we wrap up for tonight then?
I just want to say that stories, even though you mostly think about them in books or in films or in TVs, actually they're everywhere. If you don't like reading, it doesn't matter. You can find stories any old way you want, and one of the best ways to find them is to listen to them, or to tell them, or to make them up yourself. So really, whenever you look at any objects or any scenes, stay curious about it and wonder, what could the story of that thing or that person be? Because it makes life so much more interesting.
And stay curious indeed, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed your time with us. This was a Steam Corner. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Yui. And until the next time, goodbye. So, guys, thank you again for joining us tonight. I hope you had a lot of fun. I certainly did. And in case you wanted to know more about how to create a story, tell the story, and teach the story yourself to somebody else, please join us on Momokuri. Here you go. There's the link down here. The ticket for the entire week is only a £5. And I have to say that we completely sold out the 9 o'clock and the 11 o'clock in the morning sessions. So we have tickets for you guys running between the 15th and the 19th of February. Which is the half term, the school half term. And you can join us at 1:30 or at 3:30 p.m. For those of you concerned about safety and security online, we run everything without microphone or cameras from your end. Obviously, ours are in, with amazing soundtracks and sound effects and visual effects as well. So it's absolutely 100% safe. You can ask our teacher ourselves. You've seen three. There's one more teacher that's going to join us. As many questions as you like. And we're going to go through the week covering topics about storytelling, about music composition, and about creative coding. All of the software that we use is browser-based and completely free. There are some accounts that we can show you how to create in an anonymous and or very safe way, so that you have no worries, no trouble on the internet. And once again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to hosting you online. Don't wait too long, guys, because the tickets are really running out. We just took a look at the Eventbrite just before starting this stream. Thank you very much for your time, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And as Laura said, stay curious. And until the next time, this was Mr. E from Conductive Music. All the best.